Hey guys, welcome back to White Mule Farm. I just want to give you a quick update on how things are going with our tomato plants. So tomatoes and bell peppers are going to be our first two produce crops that we're producing on the farm. So this is kind of our beta test of, is this something that we want to do? Did the location that we chose work out well? Do I have a green enough thumb to make this happen? And so as you can see, this is one of our tomato plants that we planted several weeks ago. I started these plants as seeds in late January. So they've been growing ever since they were babies. Now, this particular plant, if you want to see here, it has multiple stalks coming out of the ground. That's because when I started these plants as seeds, I put multiple seeds in each soil cell just to see what would grow, because I wasn't quite sure how well the seeds would take, if they would grow. I'm actually going to leave it like this. A lot of gardeners will say you need to get rid of those except for maybe one or two, just to prevent competition for nutrients and resources. But I'm actually going to keep them all like this and kind of treat this like this is one big bushy plant. This plant is over 12 inches tall now, and it is time to start staking and supporting these plants, because pretty soon as they get bigger, they're going to start leaning over, and we don't want the leaves touching the ground because that increases risk for mold diseases. It also increases risk for pests that are crawling pests that'll crawl onto the leaves and eat them. And then also, as this begins to bear fruit, that increases the risk for ground crawling pests to eat the fruit. And we want the fruit so that we can harvest it and sell it at the market. So there are a couple unique things about this plant. I do have several plants at this point that are producing buds and are getting ready to bloom. And so for this plant, I think that you might be able to look really closely here and see at this top area, little tiny flower buds right here. So those are going to bloom, and the flowers are what turn into the tomatoes. So the weather's warm enough now that our bees are foraging, and so our bees will help cross-pollinate these plants so that they can produce a good quantity of fruit for us to harvest. So with this plant, it is time for me to do some pruning, and I've already pruned most of the plants today. I only have a few left, as it is the end of the day, but I wanted to show you what I'm doing. So one, I am using my thumbnail.
Did you know you're going to have a special guest in this video?
I do have a special guest. Brownie is coming to say hi. She's helping with a little bit of pest reduction here in the garden. So it looks like Mila might come and join us here pretty soon as well. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically trimming the lower branches, I guess, or the lower leaflets from these plants. So basically what I'm doing is anything that is halfway up the stem or below is coming off. And so for this leaflet here, I'm just going to pinch that off. I'm using my thumbnail. My thumbnail's pretty sharp. If somebody doesn't have a thumbnail, they could use a pair of sharp scissors. I actually like manicure scissors for this, because these plants are still pretty delicate at this age. And if you're using a pair of heavy steel garden shears, you may bruise the plant, but not catch some of these teeny tiny branches that are growing. I think that there's a weed I just caught there. So I'm just pinching these off. What this does is it helps to direct resources up the plant, because we want nutrients from the soil and water getting up to these upper areas where the leaves are, because this is where the flowers are going to be, and this is where the fruit is going to come in. Fruit is not going to be produced in these lower branches here. So they're just coming off at this point, and I'm just pinching them off. Okay, pretty unceremoniously. And a good way to think about this, if you're not quite sure if you're pruning enough or if you're pruning too much, you can always prune more later. If you're checking on your garden regularly, you can always come back and prune more at a different time if you don't quite feel comfortable with how much you're pruning. But basically, if you think about it, anything that's not going to produce fruit, hi, honey. Like these lower branches, this lower branch here, that is not going to be, want that? a fruit producing leaflet. And so if it's not going to be a fruit producing leaflet, you're going to want it to come off. This one is not going to be a fruit producing leaflet. Okay. And so basically I'm leaving the top 3 to 4 on each stalk. This helps to increase air circulation down here at the base of the plant. It helps to direct resources up to the canopy of the plant to get water and nutrients to the fruiting bodies. And it is going to make the plant grow bigger. As the plant grows bigger, it'll be able to produce more fruit. So that's how I prune my tomato plants. I know that that's not how everybody does it, but this is the way I like to do it. And I actually like to lay hands on my plants so I can get a really good idea of how healthy they are and what their general state of being is, so that I know if I need to add some fertilizer, if I need to do some soil amendment, or anything like that. Today I've also been pulling weeds, and so we've done a lot of weeding. We've had lots of rain lately, so there are lots of weeds that need to come out. We haven't quite mulched yet because I'll be putting pepper plants in before we mulch. So mulch will be coming later. So anyway, I hope that this was helpful for you. For those of you who grow tomatoes, if you've never pruned your tomato plants before, I recommend giving it a try. You may notice that your yields are higher and that you have healthier plants. So let me know in the comments below what questions you have about tomato plants, about pruning them, what you've done in the past, maybe when you've started multiple seeds in one seed starting cell, and what you did with those plants, if you culled the extra plants or if you decided to grow them like me. So I'll keep you guys posted on how these are going. And as these little blossoms bloom and we get our first round of tomatoes, I'll definitely keep you guys informed of how those turn out. So in the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel so you can get all the updates that we're bringing to you here at White Mule Farm. And thanks for tuning in. Take care, and we'll see you next time.